Hi, everyone. Well, anyone that watches this in replay also. Um, Welcome to That Mystery Show, hosted by Miss Kulala's Mystical Musings. That would be me, Carla. um, I do have a guest that's going to be joining me. And I thought today that we would discuss The Secret Teachings of All Ages by Manly P. Hall. I'm actually going to begin a series, um, with my fellow panel member here. His name is Phil. He'll be joining us shortly. And another panel member that can't make it today, but we all have read this, and I've actually revisited it, and I have such a bad menopausal brain fog memory issue. I'm going to be 55 this year. So it's like if I don't discuss things as I read them, or, bounce my opinions and my beliefs off of other people, then I feel like I'm not doing myself justice by, because everybody can perceive the same thing. Hi, Elise. Thank you for being here. Everybody could be experiencing the same incident, and no matter who you are, you're not going to tell the same story that the person next to you is telling. Why? Because, there's, different experiences that go along with, who is witnessing the event, so I feel that way even about the information that we take in. It takes a lot of our own discernment. And this book is immense. And I think that knowing the background of this book is very important, because for one, when you take on the whole entity, when you're done, you're not going to sit there and go, oh, because it covers so many things. You're not going to just get it all in one reading. It's like, this was, in my opinion, his magnus opus of his career. I think when you think about Manly P. Hall, at least for myself, this is what I think of, and that he was a Mason. So I want to discuss a little bit of just my opinions on Masons, and I'm telling you, it's not an informed opinion, because I'm not a Mason. I'm not a daughter of Job. I'm not a member of the Eastern Star, so I don't have any firsthand knowledge. I only know what I've read. And I have my opinions because of what I've read. I would like to talk to you about what you can read right in the preface of this book, that before you actually dig in, I think that it's important to know what his message, what he's like, a disclaimer. So the preface, I won't read all of it, but it's a couple pages long. So it starts with saying, numerous volumes have been written as commentaries upon the secret systems of philosophy existing in the ancient world. But the ageless truths of life, like many of the earth's greatest thinkers, have usually been clothed in shabby garments. The present work is an attempt to supply a tomb worthy of those seers and sages whose thoughts are the substance of its pages. To bring about this coalescence of beauty and truth has proved most costly, but I believe that the result will produce an effect upon the mind of the reader which will more than justify the expenditure. Work upon the text of this volume was begun the first day of January 1926 and has continued almost uninterruptedly for over 2 years. Now, mind you, he didn't become a Mason until 1956, I believe. The greater part of the research work, however, was carried on prior to the writing of the manuscript. The collection of reference material was begun in 1921, and 3 years later, the plans for the book took definite form. For the sake of clarity, all footnotes were eliminated. The various quotations and reference to other authors being embodied in the text in their logical order. The bibliography is appended primarily to assist those interested in selecting for future study the most authoritative and important items dealing with philosophy and symbolism. To make readily accessible the abstruse information contained in the book, an elaborate topical cross index is included. This is my favorite part that I'm about to read you, because whenever I have heard anyone discussing in a negative aspect their opinions on Manly P. Hall and the fact that he wrote this before he was a Mason, he makes it very clear that these are educated opinions. So he is not telling you what he believes is the absolute truth. So he does go on to say, I make no claim for either the infallibility or the originality of any statement herein contained. I have studied the fragmentary writings of the ancients sufficiently to realize that dogmatic utterances concerning their tenets are worse than foolhardy. Traditionalism is the curse of modern philosophy, particularly that of the European schools. While many of the statements contained in this treatise may appear at first wildly fantastic, I have sincerely endeavored to refrain from haphazard metaphysical speculation, presenting the material as far as possible in the spirit rather than the letter of the original authors. By assuming responsibility only for the mistakes which may appear herein, I hope to escape the accusation of plagiarism, which has directed me against nearly every writer on the subject of mystical philosophy. My friend Phil is here, so I would like to welcome Phil.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you doing?
No, not too bad. Sorry about that.
No problem. I've actually I've been introducing the preface and talking about like Manly P. Hall makes no claim that this is the absolute truth.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, these are all just things that he had studied on by himself. And he wrote this book, or should I say it was published by the time he was 27 years old. I mean, do you remember what you were doing at the age of 27? Well, that was that yesterday?
Wasn't doing that. I mean, I was into spirituality and stuff, but I wasn't that invested in it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, that alone speaks to, the type of individual that I believe he was. Everybody has opinions, So, and I told, I've been talking to Chat about, the reason that we're doing this is to start a series, and it's going to cover each chapter of this book. So I thought that we would start with an introduction. Mm-hmm. And by introduction, I don't mean like we joked about it earlier, like, did you take your notes? And I actually was going to, and then I just didn't have enough time to go through the whole introduction because it's long.
Yeah,
it's
is
very long.
Yeah, I'm actually going to reread it. I like to read like out of physical copies.
Yes.
I was just listening to it on the YouTube today or whatever.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, man, there's just so much stuff I wanted to start like jotting down, but I didn't have the time and stuff. I was with my kids too.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I don't know. This book is one thing I said was that it's the magnus opus of his career, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And he wrote it when he was 27, and he didn't become a Mason for what 30 years later, I think.
Yeah, I know he was older. I don't know the exact age.
Yeah, he was
Yeah.
in his 50s, I believe, or just turned 50. So, and like I feel like this book introduces you to these topics. It doesn't go all in, but he covers a plethora of things that the occult might consider. That he introduces you to obviously his perception of these topics. But I mean, I
Yeah.
was so blown away after reading this book that I had to talk to you. I had, other people about it because I think it's important to get someone else's take on what they just experienced, what they just read, to give it a fuller, you
Yeah.
know, you probably caught stuff I didn't. So that's kind of what this whole podcast is going to be about.
Yeah.
I do want to read another paragraph here from the preface because I started to do that before you came on, and I think that it's important as we go forward. It says the entire theory of the book is diametrically opposed to the modern method of thinking, for it is concerned with subjects openly ridiculed by the sophists of the 20th century. Its true purpose is to introduce the mind of the reader to a hypothesis of living wholly beyond the pale of materialistic theology, philosophy, or science. The mass of abstruse material between its covers is not susceptible to perfect organization, but so far as possible, related topics have been grouped together. So, and I agree with that. It's like, where else are you going to find all of these topics grouped together in one big book like this?
Yeah. Yeah. I read something somewhere, or I see somebody was talking about it. One year, once you read this book, you should be able to go into like take a deep dive into any
Yes.
occult knowledge. Yeah.
Yep. So, I think we talked about the Masons a lot in our last podcast. And I've even thought a little bit more about it. Like people, just the fact that he wasn't a Mason when he wrote this, and he became a Mason approximately 30 years later. And he was approached by the magician. What was his name?
Houdini.
Houdini. Right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know the details of that and like the where, the when, and the why, but I mean, I can guess. And I feel like the Freemasons as a whole, without putting any type of stigmatism on them at all, they're collectors. And I don't mean collectors of just knowledge in general. I think they like to collect people,
Yeah.
you
Mhm.
know,
Yeah.
and I don't think that becoming a Mason gives you privy to this type of stuff. I think they have collected people over the years that have this knowledge. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah. Somebody explained it to me. It's like they explained Freemasonry to me in like multi-level marketing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like basically all the knowledge is can be found, but and, most people feel like that group has some sort of secret. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
To
Yeah.
to there's a reason to join it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because
And
yeah, go ahead.
well, I was just thinking, even I have noticed a difference in, say, like Manly P. Hall stopped talking about the Masons the same way I don't mean like stopped altogether, but his tune kind of changed.
Yeah, yeah,
So, and we can speculate on why that is, but I feel like the thing of it is it's like the Freemasons are just, especially, and if you talk to somebody who is a Freemason, like I just talked to one recently, and I asked him if he knew who Manly P. Hall was, and he went, "No, who's that?"
right.
And I was
Yeah,
like,
that's what I'm saying. I got a
"Wow,
buddy the
okay,
same way.
yeah,
He says you go in there. He says a lot of them don't know nothing
right,
about any of
no,
it. Yeah,
yeah," and I feel
truly
like
is a social club. It can
I,
be.
I'm sorry, a friend of mine was talking about it the other day, and I believe it was on her TikTok. She was talking about someone had sent her a meme that they had saw, or somebody posted it, that the Freemasons are like kind of behind this new age spiritual movement and not to trust it and blah blah blah. And what she said I thought was gold. And because she believes in the Hermetic principle of polarity, she began to talk about duality and, like the whole idea of polarity is just a measure of degree in difference. So, to me, and again, like on that same principle is that everything is a half truth. So anyone can take knowledge, because to have knowledge gives you power and it can give you control. So anyone can take that and either corrupt it or use it to enlighten or use it to control, one or the other. So I feel like when you are a big entity like the Freemasons as a whole, I feel like it's only considered that you would have some people in those type of positions that might use it for something other than enlightenment.
Yeah.
But I think we have that in anything where there is power or where there are a lot of people gathered. That is the whole principle. It's like, take everything with a grain of salt.
Yeah. Yep. I totally agree.
Just to open your mind. It's just to open your mind and get you to do your own digging.
Yeah.
And it's wonderful. So I do have a copy in front of me, and I'm just looking at the introduction. And he goes over so many things, like I said, that I can't even without having of taking notes, which I didn't.
Right.
It's hard to touch on all of it because the introduction is so long, but he kind of covers a little bit of everything. And he does talk about his ideas of what he thinks the Masons were or are.
Yeah.
What do you think? I mean, what do you think about him being a Mason?
I think he was, obviously, if it took him that long, I think he was obviously skeptic of it to begin with. You know what I'm saying? I think they kind of used him to, make their stuff look good. I mean, they didn't have a really good name. You know what I'm saying? And I think they used him, to kind of get their ideas out there in a more positive light, and gain more of a following.
I agree with that. And I think that was the intention over the years, is they saw somebody, that they thought might have been worthy of their agenda. Whatever that agenda is, they thought this person would make a good fit. And obviously, well, hi, thank you so much for joining us. I think that was what they did over the years. And of course, Helen Blavatsky is pretty much the person who introduced the new age spiritual type movement. You know what I mean? Bring it back down to her. And one, she's a female. Yes, she is definitely, her name is associated with Freemasons, but I mean, that doesn't make her movement the Masons movement, because the Masons of today, especially for the young man that I spoke to just recently, he was like, yeah, it's just men supporting men, and they have a group for women, he said, and we invite all walks of religion. So that says a lot to me, because I know that they were originally based, or at least the theory is that it all was Rosicrucianism, but I think that it's just even more so now.
Yeah. And I mean, that's like their common answer too. Like, If you look up like I've seen the YouTube videos on like ABC and the main newsline places. Who is this mysterious group, and that's basically what they always say is, we're just a group of
Yep.
guys. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And it's kind of like I can't think of the word off the top of my head I want to use, but it's just their basic answer when somebody asks them who they are. I feel like they're trained to give that answer.
Yeah, maybe. I know that I read an article not too long ago that was actually written by Manly P. Hall, where he did talk about, and this was before he became a Mason. So again, it's speculation, but he says, it's a secret group inside of a group. So, I mean, just becoming a Mason doesn't give you privy to the type of knowledge that can be accessed when you become a part of this group. And we have to remember that he was a 33-degree Mason. He became, what is supposedly, as far as we know, the highest level that can be reached, right?
Yeah. Yep. That's what they say. They say some people say there's only 3. Like, all you need is 3. Like, that's what some of them will say.
Right.
Once you become Master Mason, you're Master Mason, and then everything else is just ego, pretty much, according to some of them,
Right.
But then you got people getting to the Memphis Mizraim rites. They're not clandestine lodges, so they're not accepted on the Grand Lodge level, but they go up to 90 degrees and whatnot. So it's a little strange, yeah.
So maybe it does kind of it depends on what lodge you're a part of.
Yeah.
That's one thing that I think I had read is that, like some lodges are just about like empowering each other, and then some are about like creating good standing within your society, and then others are just about educating yourself and learning esoteric things. So I did pull up because Phil is muted at the moment. He's home with his baby. Well, hello, Phil.
Yeah.
I did pull up the table of contents. So just to give our viewers an idea, or our listeners an idea of what we're going to be discussing as we move along in these series. The first one, we're talking about the introduction now. That, I mean, again, it's going to take you a good hour just to get through that. And he talks about Mithras. He talks about the Egyptian priests that are what he believes became the gypsies that are responsible for our tarot. I mean, he really digs deep in his theories. So the first chapter is called The Ancient Mysteries and Secret Societies Which Have Influenced Modern Masonic Symbolism. So, and that one is about 4 pages long, that chapter. So, I mean, he really just kind of goes over his ideas of Freemasonry and other types of secret groups. So, hi, thank you for joining us. I really appreciate it. And I hope that you guys like the topic. It can be a little controversial. Everybody has their different opinions of the Freemasons. But I look at Manly P. Hall as, Manly P. Hall, not the Mason.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
So within
that, a lot of people.
Go ahead.
I was just saying that's how a lot of people viewed him. I've even seen.
I know.
I don't know if you heard of Jordan Maxwell. He was big on YouTube or whatever, but he was kind of anti-Masonic, but he spoke very highly of Manly P. Hall, especially when he died. Apparently, they were friends and everything.
Oh,
so
wow.
A lot of people respected him. A lot of even people who aren't Masons, and
Absolutely. Like I said, I think the Freemasons they collected people, and who would not want to collect Manly P. Hall? What I mean?
Yeah.
So, oh, so the rock and roll mystic, she says it's interesting. I have had several Masons in my family.
Yeah, me as
I
well.
there is
Not
a lot
several,
of, yeah, there's a lot of like stigma and I don't know, conspiracy theory around them when they do a lot of good,
but yeah,
and again, I think that whenever there's knowledge and knowledge is power, that it can be used either to, there's a lot of responsibility that comes with it. It's like you have your superheroes and then you have your villains. It just, nothing is black and white. And again, that whole principle of polarity kind of goes into play there. I know I have my bad days, and
yeah,
I know I'm the villain in some people's stories. So, I mean,
yeah,
but I will tell you, I'm not a villain.
yeah.
But so the next podcast that we do, we're definitely going to be talking about the first chapter, and the first chapter is where he's talking about druids. He gets more into Mithras and some Christianity. Um, and that's just going to be one podcast. So, I mean, that's going to be the basis, and it's going to take us a long time to get through these, but um,
Yeah,
I
I'm
think that
excited about it.
I am too. I think it's going to be fun because this whole book, he talks about Atlantis. He talks about Thoth. He talks about the pyramids. He talks about Isis. He talks about the sun and the zodiac. Um, I could go on. Pythagoras.
Oh yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, he
He
goes
talks
over.
about he talks about quite a lot. I was interested when I was just reading the little introduction part about what there's like six main tenets of what philosophy is, and he just breaks it down and where all the ideas stem from, like the first, the Aristotles and the Socrates, and where all these ideas come from that basically everybody knows about now, but none of us really knows where they originated from, what time, people who make
Yeah,
claims to these ideas. Like this
absolutely.
is, yeah, it was pretty nuts.
So, Kendra's Journey, Phil says many of my grandfathers were Masons. One signed the Declaration of Independence.
Oh
Isn't
wow.
that? Yeah, that's freaking awesome. I used to believe that there was a conspiracy theory that all the presidents were Masons except for the ones that were uh, eliminated or
Yeah.
assassinated, and that is not true. Woodrow Wilson was I believe, a Mason. Maybe he wasn't, but he's actually the first president that spoke into existence that we know of for the New World Order. And I
Which
don't think
president
he
we
was
talking
a
about?
Mason.
Which
Huh?
one?
Woodrow
Which
Wilson?
president are
I
you
don't.
talking?
He
Yeah.
was the
I don't know
17th
if he was the
president.
Mason or not.
I don't think he was. Um, but
But
but I used to think that, ooh, maybe they had to be a Mason in order to be a president. And if they weren't, that's why they were assassinated. I actually might have said them words because I am a conspiracy theorist. So, I know, and I'll be the first to tell you that I bought into all of it too. And I know you had thought about becoming a Mason.
oh yeah, I thought about it. Especially when I had a buddy. I had a buddy who was in it, and he was willing to bring me in there to the lodge. I went in there, but they didn't want me because they said I had an OW, too many OWIs or something like that. I just thought it was kind of bogus because it had been a long time, and they had said something to the nature of, you know, said something to the nature of just make sure that. Hang on, because I'm trying to enter the studio on a different one because this thing's about to die.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, but yeah.
Oh, there you are. All right. So let's remove that one. And oh, your video's on. Hi, Phil. I can see your face. How you doing? So yes, to me, they're just normal people. I agree with that. And then,
Yeah,
oh, his name was Thomas McKean. I know that name. I've definitely heard it. And he's way down at the bottom. So okay, so my ex-husband, he passed, but when we were married, he was approached. And I do know, Phil, that they do expect you to be. It's all about becoming the best you. So
yeah.
it is unfortunate that they would hold your past against you like that, but I think it depends on the lodge itself too. Like
I was
they have,
upset because I ain't gonna lie, I was upset because I paid like $125 initial or you got to pay to even
right.
petition to join, and so I'm sitting there thinking, and all the guys were there telling me, oh yeah, you'll be good, we'll get you in there, and I was asking a lot of questions though, you know what I'm saying, because I was
Yeah.
skeptical of it. I don't think that they like that really.
Well, when they approached my husband at the time, he pretty much sat next to me, and I did like you. I asked all the questions.
Yeah.
He just listened, and I don't think he cared one way or another. He let me take control of the situation, and I ended up asking him to not join because I felt like they were a little bit intrusive.
In your life. Yeah.
To know what we spent our money on, because that particular lodge, which was in Elkhart, Indiana at the time, approximately 27 years ago, wanted to have access to my ex-husband's bank account, like to know what he was spending his money on. And they expected 10%.
Man.
So, I mean, they were really, and I thought, wow, that's extreme. But then they said, these are all the benefits that you would have. And they gave him this gray book that he had to read. It was a nice hard textbook, and I read it. And he wasn't even really interested in anything. So I was like, yeah, I'm but at that time I really didn't know anything about it. But I of course was very curious about the temple. So I went in, or the lodge. So I went to where it was located, and they weren't active. So it was locked up, and it didn't look like, I mean, anybody had really been there in a while. So that was another contributing factor, was like, well, don't you have like a gathering? But I mean, my mind was like racing, and of course, like I said, I'm a conspiracy theorist, so I did research and was listening to other people's opinions, and so I don't have an educated opinion of myself. I just, now I've talked to people who are Masons, and again, they're like, no, we're just men supporting men.
Yeah. And a lot of them, I think that's what it is for them. You know what I'm saying?
I think so.
It's a brotherhood for them, and they don't see anything outside of that. Like I said, all of them ain't interested in, except for what they go through in the degrees or whatever. I mean, they're not interested in looking into, philosophy necessarily.
Right. And I think it depends on the lodge, because some are and some aren't. And like the town next to me is Dowagiac, Michigan, and they have I think it's Job's Daughters, or Daughters of Job, or something like that. And it's very it's very religious. You know what I mean? They have, so I
Yeah.
mean it's different. You know what I mean? I could probably, like Rock and Roll Mystic says, since she has family members who are Masons, she thought about joining the Order of the Eastern Star, and believe me, I have too, because
Yeah.
Matsky is one of my, I love her too, and I resonate with Theosophy
Yeah.
big time,
See,
and if I could find something like that, I'd be all in. You know?
yeah, I think I could be wrong, but I feel like I've heard that you have to, if you're gonna join the Eastern Star, you have to have a husband that's a master mason, and
Oh, okay.
might have to look into it more. I could be wrong, so don't quote me. But yeah,
Hmm.
because I was thinking that that's just the order for any type of women, but from what I've also heard, a lot of Masons, they don't spend a lot of time with their wives when they're locked into what the lodge is doing, and they're going to these benefits with the lodge, or they're going over here, and so that's why I think the Order of the Eastern Star is there, so that the wives they don't feel completely like, you know, pushed to the side,
Right, right.
because and I've heard accounts where, the wives, they're like, "Where's my husband?" type deal. I don't know how true it is because I've never been part of anything like
Yeah.
that. I'm just saying.
Yeah. Well, like I said, so anything that I have said about the Masons is it's opinionated, and it's only based upon things that I've read or heard other people say. So
Mhm.
there's nothing that I can say that I can claim as factual.
It's
You
factual,
know,
yeah.
yeah, I've
Yep.
talked to other people and I have my opinions, but I believe that there all these different lodges have different ways of doing things.
Yeah.
Um,
And
so
and
I'm
then you
still
got to be
interested.
careful, like with the in clandestine lodges. Those are the lodges, like those are where people like, you know, Aleister Crowley claimed to be a Freemason, and a lot of
Yeah.
Freemasons don't want him on their roster like that. So they don't want his bad name on their roster, so they'll say things like, he was never in a traditional lodge. You know what I'm saying? He was joined a clandestine lodge. You know what I'm saying? That has no merit, basically.
Okay.
Things like, so you'd have to. So when you say things about like your husband having to like give 10%, and then you drove by the lodge and it's empty, well, maybe
Yeah.
that particular lodge ran out of money and they're looking for a quick hustle somehow. You know, you
It's
see on.
possible.
Yeah,
It's possible.
because if you
Um,
don't have the, yeah, go ahead.
well, I
Sorry.
just remember asking, why would you have to know what he's spending his money on? And he did say, well, we're strict. He said,
Yeah,
we need to know what you're spending your money on, and if it is, you know, follows our guidelines. And I thought that right there determined it for me. you know,
yeah,
that right
yeah.
there said, okay, well, all right. Well, you already know what my answer is going to be. And,
Apparently, yeah,
obviously, obviously my husband didn't have much of a choice in the matter. And again, I don't think he cared. I'm the one that entertained it because of the things that I had heard, and I was extremely curious. So
yeah.
I don't think he was even, I don't think he wanted to read all the material alone, let alone, have somebody tell him what he could do with his money.
But do you think Manley agreed with all? I mean, I think that he agreed with all the material, but I think that he was like basically his own philosopher. You know what I mean? Like
I
before.
think so too. And I believe that, I can't speak for him obviously, but I think that, at the time that he joined and the people that were encouraging him to join, I think there was some definite somebody made it look too good to refuse, and no matter what that was. And the like I have my theories on, you know, he's like a whistleblower, so it's like he was giving out knowledge for free, and I felt like somebody didn't like that, and they were
Yeah,
like, "No, no, 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 no." Like I said, this is just my opinion.
yeah,
So I think that, he might have been persuaded, and it would take somebody knowing somebody well enough to know what it is could persuade them. And I think when you're in a higher up position of, say, given an important position with a lot of power, that you might be able to persuade somebody a lot easier than, say, somebody that doesn't have resources. And no matter what that could be, with
Yeah.
him, I don't think it was money. I think it might have
Yeah.
been other things. So, but that's not for me to say. Um,
Well,
so the
I
rock
think
and
that
roll
he
mystic, she
definitely.
says, what?
Yeah, go ahead. No, go
Oh,
ahead. I'm sorry.
she says it was her great grandfather who was the master mason, so it could be a direct bloodline thing. And she said her research could be wrong, but I think I've actually heard that too.
It's possible. I could be wrong. That's why I was saying I'm not sure, to be
And I
honest with
think
you.
it
I
depends
just
on the
heard that
lodge.
one time. Say what?
I think it depends on the lodge. And I think they might, they can make exceptions for people if that person looks good enough to them,
Yeah.
you
Yep.
know? So, and the fact, like I said, here's this man, Manly P. Hall, who's just turned 27 and publishes this book that is just anything you want to know about the occult. He gives you a topic to dive down. He gives you a plethora of rabbit holes to go down,
Yeah.
and it's opinions, that are based upon the things that he had read, but he was obviously doing his research. And
Mhm.
you're only going to know it if you read it, but I mean, follow the rabbit holes. And that's kind of also what this whole series is going to be about, because we're not going to spend an hour on a designated topic without, like I said, the first one is let me pull it back up for you, is about secret societies and stuff. So I mean, we could talk about what you've learned about druids or about Mithras,
Yeah.
or things of a Christian nature. There's things that my experiences are going to be different than yours, so we can really round it out with our own experiences, knowing that what he's bringing to the table is from his experiences, although he's one of my heroes. So
Yeah.
a lot of things that he has said and done resonate with me greatly.
Yeah. Yeah. If it wasn't for Manly P. Hall, I would have never went down none of them rabbit holes, I don't think. The way he lays everything out, makes it make sense.
And see, I'm just the opposite. I was looking at all that stuff before Manly P. Hall. And then all of a sudden, no, it was before I met you. I came across this book and everything that was in it. And I thought, oh my gosh, it's all in one place. I have got to read this. And then
Mhm.
I actually met you through Daniel. And
Yeah.
you had brought that book. Yeah, I was there. Remember, you was like, here, I want Daniel to read this. And I was reading it at the time that you brought it over. And I
Awesome.
thought, oh my goodness, I need to talk to this young man. We need to really, we need to talk
Yeah.
about this. And
I'll be honest, I haven't never read this book front to back. Like this was just the first. I just started watching, I just I heard about him. This is the first book on occult that I ever got on the occult, and then I didn't take a deep dive into that book where I jumped and learned other things. It was just that was like the spark, for me.
yeah, um,
George Washington.
yeah, a descendant of
Hey.
George Washington. Hell yeah, I could see you becoming a Order of the Eastern Star member.
Yeah,
Definitely.
yeah.
Um,
What does
yeah,
she think about those? What does she think about the letters that he wrote concerning that? There's big conspiracy in that.
who? Manly P. Hall or George
Oh,
Washington?
George Washington, yeah. George Washington on his, because he was a Mason, He was a Mason, but he wrote letters to somebody about
Oh,
the Bavarian Illuminati and whatnot infiltrating America. And it was crazy.
yeah,
It's on
yeah,
like the actual docs. Like how the government has like documentations of certain letters and stuff. It, I don't know. It looked legit on the site when I looked at it. It's
well,
crazy.
I first listened to The Secret Teachings of All Ages on audio, and I did listen to it all
Mhm.
the way through in increments. It was the only book I read at the time because I couldn't concentrate on anything else. I was so excited to get through it. But I found a PDF copy on the CIA's website. So, I mean, yeah, it's
Right.
important
Yeah.
enough that, the CIA thinks that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I can believe what you're saying. I have not read them, but
Yeah.
I believe in. Oh, okay. So she's responding, Phil. She says I haven't read any letters yet. I already know because I have talked to her. She's going to go down this rabbit hole, and so am I. So I
That's
only
awesome.
found out of my connection to him recently. I'll have to check on that. Yeah, yeah. Maybe we need to have you up here on the next podcast.
Right.
Yeah, she's yeah, definitely.
That's
Um,
cool. That's pretty
yes,
cool though. She's got some direct descendant
yeah,
bloodline to George
ab-
Washington.
absolutely. I'm tickled. I think that I can't get enough of this topic, period, about Masons just because I'm ignorant to, what it's truly about. I only know what I've read in the research, but, would I love to be, um, yeah, she says, I do hear that rabbit hole calling.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I would like to have been a fly on the wall in those secret meetings, decades ago.
Yeah.
Just to know,
Yeah.
what was really going on and what is, you know, especially Illuminati. I mean,
Oh,
again,
you
I'm a
know how they've
conspiracy theorist, so
Hollywood, the Hollywood version of it they've created today is crazy.
yeah, yeah,
Everybody's in the damn Illuminati.
yeah. That's true. Yeah, let's boycott Hollywood because they're Illuminati.
Right.
I can't say either way. But I don't watch talk shows anymore. I hardly ever watch the news, and most of my entertainment is YouTube, TikTok.
Manly P. Hall talks about the Bavarian Illuminati quite a bit.
Yeah, I think I actually have an article pulled up on that. Um, yeah, he's what I would consider a whistleblower, and that's why I think that he would have been trying to blow the lid off of a lot of things if he hadn't become a Mason. But the
Yeah.
fact that he became a Mason, I almost wonder if it wasn't to get inside knowledge because of the things that he was thinking. And then he realized it wasn't everything that he was thinking
Right.
because he was a conspiracy theorist also. And I think
Yeah.
that's the only way to find out the truth. We can let our minds go to wherever they're going to go, but without having solid knowledge of what we're talking about, that's all it is speculation. And we can't judge on speculation.
Yeah. For sure.
And the Masons that I know are wonderful people. So,
No,
but
I
I can
think
count on
Masonry is
one
good.
hand.
I don't want people to get confused. I think the Masonry is. I mean, the philosophy of it is just bettering yourself.
Yeah.
Like that's what I think I said last time, and that's what I
Yep.
think it's really all about. To a true Mason at heart, that's what and you know, to be a Mason at heart, like Mason will tell you like every man is truly a Mason, just because
Yep.
even before the lodge, you know what I'm saying? It's just about carving yourself into a better, more defined individual.
When you
Carving
think
with stone.
about
That's what Masonry is. And
when you think about humans, as a whole. Like, when you get a bunch of people together, and there's that herd mentality that if somebody could do something good their whole life, and as soon as they do something bad, that's what you remember.
Yeah. Yep.
And unfortunately, that's what happens, when people are in a seat of power. I mean, that's what we remember.
Mm.
And we're all only humans, so we make mistakes, and we have our own opinions, and just we're fallible, you know.
Yeah.
So anyone
So
can take something that was meant to be really good and use it for their own purposes, and it's not anymore.
oh yeah. Yeah. No, I think it's great. It's great. Like I said, I was just sour when they didn't accept me, man.
Yeah, I don't blame
I'm
you.
gonna
I
lie to
would
you.
have
I
been
was sour
too.
about that, and I just felt like I don't need to be accepted by y'all. Like, and that's why I don't want anybody to think that I think negatively of Freemasons. My dad's grandpa was a 33rd degree Freemason, so I mean,
Yeah.
I feel like that has like I didn't meet my dad until I was 20, and
Yeah.
about a month or two after he wanted to meet me, and he ended up his only wish was he said he wanted to live to be 100, and I mean he died 2 weeks after he was 100,
Wow.
and I mean yeah, like it was always I always felt like because of him that must be why I was so interested. Maybe that's why I felt the pull, you know, just because of direct family ties and yeah, I don't know.
Well, I mean, I was looking up stuff, before this podcast about, like a lot of big names in our history can be linked to Freemasons. You know what I mean? I mean, they were everywhere. Even like in the community here on YouTube that I kind of run in a circle with is with tarot and witchcraft and stuff like that. And if we look back at the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, they were linked
Yeah,
with the Freemasons. Then you
yeah,
have Blavatsky. So I mean, how can you, they all were together. So this name has been, it's part of, what helped America be established. It's,
yeah,
and that came from France to here. I mean, it's like I I think it's magnificent.
yeah. It is. And like I said, like I think I heard you say it one time. Like I think that a lot of it originates with the Druids. I do.
Yeah.
I think that that's what a lot of it is. Like I've been watching I've been there's a book on my Amazon list that I've been wanting to get. It's called Freemasonry in the Viking Age, and I've
Ooh.
been watching. Yeah, and I've been watching like rewatching the Viking shows and whatnot, and just you know how spiritual they were. You know what I mean? They were really, you know, they were spiritual. And that's
Yeah.
where the Druids come from too. Is like the Scots. I mean that area. You know what I mean? That's
Yes.
that's where, and I think it's kind of all comes trickling down from that. All of it, Freemasonry, and trying to bring all the spiritualities together. I think that's one big goal of Freemasonry. That's why they're big on we accept anybody of any religion because
Yes.
yeah,
They're all
I
telling
do think
the same story,
yeah,
just
Christian
with different
all the
names.
religions are telling the same story. I mean
Yeah.
that's what they're trying to convey to you is that
Yeah.
it's all the
There's
same
a
thing.
bringer of light as well. That's what it there's a bringer of light, and it's whatever you call him
And
or
that's
her
why like
or it.
when you see somebody who's high in religion, when I see somebody who's like big into Christianity or whatever or Islam or something, and they talk about Freemasonry in a negative light, it's because it kind of threatens their establishment.
Yeah. Yeah. It's one of the reasons why I choose omnism.
Yeah,
It's kind
because
of,
it's all the same thing.
yeah.
You can learn from all of it.
Yep. I mean, I have my core beliefs, but and that that I believe in a God or
Yeah,
the God or source or whatever, but I
yeah,
feel like we're all talking about the same thing. It's just, I know that my truth is because of who I am, what I've experienced, everything up into where I am today, which means something else could happen tomorrow that leaves me open by being honest to tweak it or to become something better. It's alchemical. It's to be a better
yeah,
version of myself tomorrow. And the only way I can do that is to not put myself in a box.
yeah. And that's what they'll tell you. Like, have you ever looked into the Morals and Dogma, Freemason, Scottish Rite by
No,
Albert Pike? Yeah, but
no.
that's what. I mean, that's one of the first thing he says is, superstition. We need to get that out the way.
Yep.
Dogma, rules and stuff like that. We need to get that out the way because it's distracting us from what's really true and distracting us from lifting the veil. You know, seeing everything for what
Absolutely.
it really is would stop a lot of wars. You would think, just imagine how many wars are based off, one group of people's beliefs and another group. That's what I'm saying. I've been watching the Vikings. I'm watching the Saxons and the Vikings go at each other's throat, over, you know, beliefs and,
Beliefs.
and, and
Yeah.
land and you know, and a lot of bloodshed for nothing, really.
Yep. I will listen and I'll listen to anybody. I won't follow a group that causes division.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I won't do. It doesn't mean I won't listen and take things in, but I won't follow the herd. I will
Yeah.
listen to myself, my higher self, and just use discernment. But that I think it's important to still listen, whether I believe in what someone else believes in. I'm still going to listen and take what serves or resonates, through my own
Yeah.
discernment and be
This
progressive.
part there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That bothers me when somebody says, you know, I ain't changing my beliefs. That's who I am. And I think, well, that's fine, and that's your thing. But I'm not gonna lie, it does bother me because then I feel like there's nothing. It's like that person has stopped listening. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I would tend to just kind of like just not say anything after that, or not. I'm not gonna.
There's no
I don't.
conversation.
I don't think that person would have anything to add to the conversation if they're not open or willing to learn themselves. Because
Yeah.
no one has ever walked in another person's shoes for the length of time that the person wearing the shoes has walked in them.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
That's for
every
sure.
journey is so significantly our own.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm like that with a lot. There's a lot of people I just don't talk this language with because people in my family, they see it their way. I've got friends who aren't Christian, who even the idea of a God at all. When I sit there and I'll say something like, do you believe in God or anything? And try to get
Yeah,
spiritual, and I'm like, not on no religious stuff, just like, you believe that there's some, you know what I'm saying? Like some spirit,
yeah,
and like, you know what I mean? That maybe you're connected to or something, they just don't even want to talk to me about it, like then they start talking about how much they hate religion or whatever. And I'm like sitting there trying to tell them like, listen, I'm not, not being religious here. I'm
yeah,
just,
exactly. I've had that too because, hi, thank you for being here, my dear. Um, if I bring up the word God, people think I'm being religious. Like,
yeah,
oh, well, let me tell you, if I describe to you who my God is, you would think I was very, if you were looking at it from a religious standpoint, you would think I was being, uh,
Satanist, dark.
yeah, a
You're
heretic
worshiping
because
the
it's
dark
not.
Lord.
Yeah, exactly. It's not the God that you're worshiping. I guarantee that is. He's so much greater than. I don't think the Bible
Yeah,
talks about my God. Maybe Jesus might talk about him, but I just don't think that, it's
yeah,
it's the one from the
yeah.
Old Testament, that's for sure. But
Oh yeah, I'm the
that's
same way.
and I'm not ready to expand upon that any more so than what I know already, and that could change tomorrow because yeah, God has many names, absolutely. And it's going to be different for everyone because again, if you stand, just like the eclipse that just happened, if you stand 10 people, you know, even in, within 5 feet of each other watching the same event, they're all going to describe it differently because of their upbringing, because of their vocabulary, because of the things, that they know, that their subconscious knows. So
Hmm.
story is going to be different. And the person that is reading all these stories may wonder if we're all talking about the same thing.
Yeah, yeah. I definitely agree.
Yeah. Elise says, I very much agree about listening. It's hard, but when I hear that, I take a breath and try to listen. Yeah, it
Yeah,
is. I agree. Listening is hard. And it's just hard to not want to talk about what you're hearing is what it is. And then because that's when we get into sharing opinions. And when people think that you're just it becomes like you're sharing your beliefs. People think because maybe you believe something that they think you're judging them for their beliefs. I don't
yeah,
understand that totally to explain it, but I think that's what happens. And we divide ourselves instead of realizing that that person went through a whole lifetime without you narrating it. You know what I mean? They
yeah,
went through that. So exactly what they're telling you is their belief. It's their truth. It's their and perception is everything. Everything is perception. So that is their reality. Hence, that is their truth. That is their 100% truth. So even if yours is different, they're both still the truth. That's why that principle of polarity and everything is a half truth to me makes so much sense and why I choose to be honest.
yeah.
You know?
No, I
Yeah.
consider myself that too. I feel like
Oh gosh,
I
yes.
feel like I can read any book on spirituality or religion from any type of religion and learn something from it. You know what I mean? And like that I could take with me. But and like I said, when it comes to like the harsh, oh no, you got to think this way. I discard those thoughts. You know what I mean? Like I'm not trying to hear that. I don't believe that.
Yeah.
I always used to say like, what God, what God is gonna send me to eternal damnation because I didn't believe anything that He wouldn't come down here and show me Himself anyways. Like I mean, how you expect me to believe that when we live in a world where everybody's lying all the time?
Yeah.
like and I feel like so there's a knowing in my heart when like sometimes with my old conditioning comes back into play. I'll watch a video that'll come up and say, if you don't accept Jesus, like the end of days is coming, and you get all freaked out because I don't believe that way anymore, and like I still
Yep.
would get, you know what I mean? Like there's a knowing in my heart that just says that's just fear tactic.
It
And
is, and that's what causes religious trauma,
yeah,
and yeah, you have to be strong or it will cause you trauma if you're especially with people you love that are coming down on you like that.
oh
Um,
yeah, you got my
so
grandpa. Somebody, yeah, go ahead.
well, I was just reading this comment. She says, I would never want to live in a universe without divine intelligence. The mystery is exciting. It makes life more robust and full. And oh my gosh, yes, I I resonate with that at my core. There, even when people start talking about the apocalypse, I'm like, yeah,
Yeah,
what do you got? I just,
what do you got?
yeah,
I'm the same way. Like, why would uh, why would you want to live without, why would you want to live without that? There would be
Exactly.
no meaning for me to life really without that. You know.
Yep. And Lady Blindwolf says, yeah, and at the same time, you can't ignore the atrocities that have been committed in the name of religion. And the
Yeah.
only thing I can say to that is accurate, but there are so many atrocities that are committed in the name of other things
I
that you're
challenge.
right.
I challenge somebody, man, on this chat if they wanted to rewatch those them Viking shows. I'm telling you, it's been an eye opener for me too. How Christianity started and how deadly it was. But
Yeah.
also how deadly the so-called pagans were too. They didn't care. They wanted to take whatever was theirs that they discovered. And so it just was a big. It was a big. I don't know. That was a big eye opener for me as far as religion goes and belief systems go, and just there was a lot of deaths in the name of religion, all types of religion.
Yeah, I agree. And yet here they are trying to shove it down our throats again. Well, at least it
Mm-hmm.
feels that way, in a media sense of like it's like I have a problem when it's brought into politics. I can't handle that.
Yeah.
Hi Phoenix Fire, thank you so much for being here. And I had a feeling that you were omnist. Yes. And speaking of religious trauma, I know that Lady Blindwolf has a lot of it, and I can definitely, yeah. And we've talked. So yeah, and in the it's hard to listen to somebody that thinks that their truth is the only truth that is correct. It's
Mm-hmm.
hard to listen. I get that, and I don't, yeah. And I mean, we should be able to speak to each other about our truths, knowing that each one of us is different and our journeys are different. And no matter why we're here, there's something that, there's a lesson to be learned. And my lesson is not the same as yours, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, not to mention manipulation, trying to threaten and scare people into converting your beliefs. Yeah, that's one thing I hope that I don't have to ever deal with, because I don't do good with that.
Yeah.
I don't think I would be around much longer if somebody with any type of power tried to do that to me.
That's my grandpa, man. I love my grandpa, but that's what I don't even. I always shut him down pretty quick. He always says, "I'm not going to preach to you too much, but I think you're doing all right. But I think you'd be doing a lot better if you could accept Jesus back in your life, things like that. You know what I mean?" And it's just once my mind is pushed past that perception, I can't go back. I really just can't. I
It's hard.
It is tough. It's tough when you
It's
got people who love you and stuff, but then they think they like people like my grandpa and stuff. I'm sure he probably really believes, I'm not gonna be
yeah.
behind the pearly gates when we all pass. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
It,
Absolutely.
it's
I think that like Phoenix Fire says, I think fanatical preachers need to be controlled if any controlling needs to be done. Yeah, I
mm,
agree. I agree. Yeah.
yeah.
I'm missing a comment here. Did it ever occur to you that pagans only wanted to live their best life and just do their thing? And what kills me is they were at the beginning of it all. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like pagans and Christians I think, started the division. They're fighting with each other. It's
That's what I
like,
think the whole Bible is based off of. Honestly,
yeah,
is
I
like
do.
for real. That's what I really think it's about.
Yeah,
It's just
I do too.
it's just because they found some land. You know what I'm saying? They found some land, and some other people thought it was their land only. You know what I mean? And that's what the
Yeah,
West is. I mean, that's how
I have.
England and everything. That's the start of all of the wars between the two groups. You know? the Raiders.
The rock and roll mystic says, I truly believe that those atrocities were not in the name of religion. It was about power alone. Yes, honestly, those religious people were bearing false witness and taking the Lord's name in vain. Yes. See, that's what I was talking about earlier with, like, we can establish that the Freemasons' message is a good one, right?
Yeah.
But you could have somebody that is a Freemason make it bad for everyone else. Just like, I know you've heard me say this name before. Greg Locke is a fanatical preacher, like what Phoenix Fire was talking about. He has a following that is massive, and he would have you and I burned at the stake because of the things that we're discussing here today. And the fact that he has a major following makes him dangerous, but he's turning us, like the religious message for me has its holes, okay, but it's still a belief, and a belief that has a doctrine. So the doctrine has been written and people follow the doctrine. So it's like, personally for myself, I don't believe in doctrines because I think, in order to truly experience an alchemical change, you have to be willing to change.
Yeah.
And if you're following a doctrine the same as what everyone else is following, that does not allow you the freedom of choice. And so it has to be your choice. So, I think that one person can take something that was meant to be good and make it bad and evil because they're using it as a power, a grab for power, a grab to control. And so I do agree with that. I do. Christians are really bad about spreading mistruths and lies about other religions. See, I can't say that because I know good Christians.
Yeah. I think that they're all.
Yeah.
The Jews, a true Jewish person ain't trying to hear what no Christian person's got to say. They don't believe it.
But they think believe in God.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, Lady Blind Wolf, I consider myself pagan, and omniscience
I'm pagan.
knows there's truth in everything.
I feel like I'm pagan.
By the way, so that you know that, being pagan means that being omnis means that you respect all religions because there's truth in all of them. So, yes.
Yeah, I feel like.
Yeah, definitely. Yep.
I feel like if I walked into church and started talking about this, right, I'd freak out.
What's that?
Yeah. If I walked into a church and just started explaining my beliefs to the church, you know what I mean? There would.
Oh, yes.
People wanting to pray over me and all types of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. The one thing that I have learned not to do is to watch something that I saw put in a video or especially like a TikTok 10-minute video and quote word for word what the person said is truth, because I have learned that if you do your research, you can find that person was still throwing their opinions in there. Mm-hmm. So nothing is factual unless you've done the research for yourself. And so I tend to follow, like, there's this great fella named Dan McClellan that is a biblical scholar, which means he only studies the scripture, and he studies the different languages of the scripture, so he understands the misinterpretations that have come about over the years of what the Bible was truly teaching. So I do follow him, and I do take the things that he says with more than a grain of salt, because he has shown his credentials. You know what I mean? And so then you can, go and study those things. There's a lot of stuff available that'll tell you, mistranslations and scriptures and all that. So I can't like take everything that I've read in the Bible as being fact because of the mistranslations. And I think that a lot of people do the same thing that they do when they point the finger at other religions or people with certain spiritual beliefs. They take it upon what someone else said instead of going and doing that research for themselves. And then that's what spreads misinformation as a whole. And it
Yeah.
causes division. And I think that is unfortunate, personally. I've gotten in trouble with doing it because I've done it. And then I was like, I don't
I
like to
think
be
that the pagans and Christians are the same, really.
that what?
Like, I think that they're the same. I think that they have more in common than they think they do. Like,
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
mean, it's all about,
absolutely.
that's what the All Father. That's who it. That was the, and then they had a whole line of other gods. You know, I've studied a lot into a lot of different pagan traditions. You know, I
Yeah.
think that I, my personal belief is I think that they mix they like kind of split their God up, but they're not wrong. It's just their perception of it. It's like 6 and 9. You know what I mean? Like I'm
Yeah.
just I've always been influenced by a monotheistic thought, so I've always
Yeah.
believed that God is, and then I became to believe that like God is everything, like it is just one big everything, you know, like I'm a piece of it. The animals are a piece of it. The trees are a piece of it. You know,
Yeah.
sky is a piece of it.
Yep.
The storms
Which
are a piece of it.
means if you think about what you just said, if you take a piece of the pie out of the pie and you eat
Mm-hmm.
that piece of pie, did you eat that whole pie?
Right. No.
Exactly. So one person's truth is still only a part of the truth.
Yeah.
That's why it's so important to listen, because you only have a percentage of the truth, no matter if you think you know the whole truth. It doesn't
Right.
matter because it takes everything, every little piece, thing, whatever you want to call it, to make the truth.
Yeah.
That's my opinion, but I mean, that's
Yeah.
how I live my life, and that's why I think, my truth could change tomorrow because I don't have all the pieces of the puzzle yet,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And
Yo.
yeah. So
For
I
sure.
like that, and I think that's kind of like the law of one. It makes everything is essential to the truth, which means everything makes up the truth. It is it, that's how there's only one
Mm-hmm.
truth, but it means we're not going to know the truth until we've all come together. But yet we divide ourselves and we point the finger at each other. So how are
Yeah.
we ever going to have the truth if we divide ourselves from it? I ask
Mm-hmm.
myself that. That's why I try to listen. And yeah, there's things that aren't going to resonate. There are always going to be things that won't resonate. And so you just leave it and pick up what does.
Yeah. For sure.
But we kind of got way off of what we were talking about.
Yeah. Yeah,
That's
we
okay.
did. But it's a good introduction. I mean,
Yes. 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 I was trying to, like, I don't know, maybe whenever you talk about your heroes, there's somebody that doesn't feel the same way you do about your hero. And
mm-hmm.
so there's going to be people that probably for some reason have made up their mind about Manly P. Hall and don't want to entertain what he has to say. And so my whole point is to try and establish, you know, how I feel about the knowledge that he's giving. And it's not so much that I'm taking what he says as, oop, that's the truth. It's more so he has opened my mind. And the way that Manly P. Hall delivers his message is something that I can get behind because he was all about the betterment of humanity. And I can get behind that.
Yeah, for sure. That's that's how I feel too.
Yep. Yep. So thank you. very much, Phil, for being here today. And
Yeah,
we will, I'd like to revisit this maybe in a couple weeks.
yeah, yeah. Just let
Does
me
that
know
sound
the dates.
all
Hopefully
right?
Dan's around.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope
Yeah,
so. And I'm keeping my positive thoughts on that because I'm hoping that it'll be very soon that he
yeah,
is out and about. So,
yeah. Me
all
too.
right. I wanted to thank everybody that showed up in the chat today. I really
Yeah,
appreciate it. Um, and I want to read what Elise said here real quick. I said, as a little girl, God exploded and divided himself into
yeah.
your fragments
Fragment.
because he knew men would divide themselves, giving them free will, so all eventually meet in the same place. Oh my gosh, I
That's
love
what
that.
I love that too. That's real. That's
Oh my gosh, that's beautiful. Yes. Yes.
I can get
That's it.
behind that for sure.
Me
That's
too.
what.
Me too. Well, that's a great way to end this. So, um, well, we'll revisit this in a couple weeks and we'll talk about the first chapter in the Secret Teachings of All Ages. And if you haven't read this, I recommend checking it out. It's a long one. So, and like Phil said, he didn't read it all at once. I did, but that's because that's what I had in my car. Anytime I would get in the car, that's what I was listening to. So it took me a
Yeah,
long time to get through it, but it's a big, thick book, but it'll definitely um, give you lots of rabbit holes to go down.
yeah. Oh yeah, for sure.
Well, I hope everybody enjoys the rest of your Sunday, and thank you again for being here. And Phil, don't go nowhere because I'm going to say goodbye, and we'll talk to everybody soon.